Maya adjusted the strap of her handbag and stepped into the elevator, the flicker of overhead lights casting shadows across her face. She wore her usual muted lipstick and an off-white blouse buttoned one too high. Routine, efficient, forgettable. It was how she survived the gray corridors of echelon marketing. At 28, Maya had grown accustomed to blending in. It was easier than standing out, especially when your husband barely noticed the difference. David had once been spontaneous. Now he texted meeting reminders more than sweet nothings. His consulting work had turned their apartment into a suitcase station, and his presence was more of a rhythm than a reality. Back Thursday. Early flight. Love you, he'd sent that morning. No emoji. No warmth. Just another predictable beat in their fading waltz. The elevator dinged. Maya stepped out and headed toward her cubicle. The buzz of fluorescent lights and distant keyboard clatter filled the air. She greeted a few colleagues with polite nods before settling in. Then, like clockwork, his door opened. Mr. Reed. Crisp navy suit, no tie, collar open just enough to suggest indifference. He was everything David wasn't: present, assertive, enigmatic. His eyes scanned the floor before they briefly met hers. She looked away too quickly. Maya. His voice cut through the room like silk over steel. My office. 5 minutes. Of course, she replied, careful not to sound eager. Her pulse betrayed her. The door clicked shut behind her as she entered. The office smelled faintly of cedar and something darker, like old books and secrets. He gestured toward a chair. I reviewed your campaign revisions, Mr. Reed began, sliding a folder across the desk. Impressive work. You have an instinct for tone. Maya tried to suppress a smile, but it crept in. Thank you. I tried to simplify the pitch language, make it more human, he interrupted, nodding. Yes. That's what this company lacks. And people who understand that, they're rare. There was a beat of silence. Not awkward, charged. She looked down, feigning interest in the papers. I'm having a few people stay late Friday, he said casually, leaning back. New client on Monday. I'd like you in a room. Of course, Maya said again, this time softer. He didn't dismiss her right away. Instead, his gaze lingered. Not inappropriate, just heavy enough to stir the air. Back at her desk, Maya's fingers hovered above the keyboard. Her screen blurred behind layers of thoughts she didn't want to acknowledge. Why did he look at her like that? Why did she care? That night, she stood at her bathroom mirror, tugging a brush through her hair too forcefully. David's voice came through her phone, speaker on. Flight was delayed. I'll probably crash at the hotel and come straight to the client site. How's work? Fine, she said, watching her own lips move. Just busy. Don't stay up too late. Night, babe. The screen dimmed. Silence again. She climbed into bed, pulling the blanket over her shoulders as if it could shield her from her own thoughts. Mr. Reed's voice replayed in her mind, echoing with a tone that felt almost intimate. She hated the feeling, the flutter of it, the ache. It had been months since someone had looked at her with anything other than obligation. And yet, guilt crawled across her skin like cold water. The next day passed in autopilot until Friday arrived with heavy clouds. By 5 o'clock, the office had emptied. Rain tapped against the windows as Maya reviewed mock-ups under dull desk light. Maya, Mr. Reed's voice summoned her again. She gathered her files and entered his office. This time, the door clicked a second longer before it shut. The lights were dimmer than usual. Everyone else canceled, he said, not sounding disappointed. Looks like it's just us. Maya's throat tightened. I can still go over the presentation with you if... He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to invade the space where professionalism usually lived. You don't have to stay, he said. Unless you want to. She froze, words slipping away. His gaze held hers, steady and unreadable. I'll stay, she murmured. A small smile ghosted his lips. Good. He turned toward the window, hands in his pockets. Rain streaked the glass. His reflection merged with hers in the pane. Maya didn't move. Her heart beat a little too loud. She wasn't sure if the tension in the air was imagined or real, but she knew she'd crossed a line, even if only in her mind. And some lines don't undraw themselves. The office after dark felt like a different building. Gone was the sterile buzz of printers and chatter. In its place, quiet, intimate, almost conspiratorial. Maya stood at the edge of the hallway, staring at the closed door to Mr. Reed's office. Her reflection in the glass wall beside her didn't look like the same woman who clocked in every morning. She knocked once. "Come in," came his voice, low and measured. He didn't rise when she entered. He was leaning against the edge of his desk, sleeves rolled, collar slightly loosened. A glass of something amber sat untouched beside him. She noticed that first, then noticed how still the room was. "You made it," he said, eyes never leaving hers. "You asked me to stay," Maya replied, voice softer than intended. A pause settled between them like static. She clutched the folder in her hands a little tighter. "Set that down," he said, nodding toward the papers. "We're not going to talk about work." She hesitated, but placed the folder on the side table. Her fingers brushed his desk. It was warm under her palm, wood polished to a shine, deceptively smooth. He stepped forward. Just one step, deliberate. "You've been different lately," he said. Distracted. Restless. She swallowed. "It's been a long week." "It's been a long year," he corrected. The space between them evaporated. He was close now, closer than any boss had a right to be. She didn't back away. Her body betrayed her before her mind caught up. "Maya," he said, voice quieter now. "You don't have to pretend with me." She blinked, something between a tremble and a breath escaping her. "I see the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching," he continued, stepping behind her. "And I know I'm not imagining it." Her heart pounded. She couldn't find a word, a reason, or an excuse. His hand came to rest lightly on her hip. "Tell me to stop," he said. She couldn't. The only sound in the room was the rain, tapping against the window like a slow metronome to her racing pulse. Then came motion. He turned her gently, guiding her with precision, like someone who'd rehearsed every move. Her knees brushed the edge of his desk. Her hands reached out for balance and landed flat against the smooth surface. The air changed thicker now, humid with unspoken things. "You're shaking," he whispered behind her, voice almost reverent. She gripped the desk tighter. His hand slid up her arms, then down, tracing invisible lines over fabric. Her breath caught as he leaned forward, not quite touching, but close enough to feel his presence along her spine. Still faceless. Still silent. When it happened, it was wordless. No declarations, no romance. Just need, tangled and reckless, set loose in a room not made for secrets. Her body moved on instinct. His matched hers with unnerving confidence. The world narrowed to the sounds between them, the hitch of her breath, the controlled rhythm of his, the dull thud of her ring tapping against the desk with each motion. And then stillness. He stepped back first, straightened his shirt sleeves, adjusted his watch. She remained there a moment longer, hands braced, head down. "Maya," he said finally, voice unreadable. She stood, smoothing her skirt, unable to meet his eyes. Her legs felt foreign beneath her. "I should go," she whispered. He nodded, as if that was all there was to say. No kiss. No farewell. Just silence. She walked out with measured steps, passing rows of empty desks that had no idea what had just happened in the corner office with the frosted glass. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in and faced forward, eyes blank. The lights flickered slightly above her. Her reflection stared back, calm, composed, untouched. But inside her, something had shifted. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the pavement still glistened. She slid into her car, gripping the wheel as if it could ground her. Her wedding ring sparkled under the dashboard light, cruel and quiet. Her phone buzzed. "David, landed. Heading home tomorrow. Miss you." She didn't reply. Instead, she rolled the window down halfway and let the night air in. Cool, sharp, real. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The quiet was louder than ever. Monday came with its usual clatter of heels and coffee cups, but Maya felt none of it. She sat at her desk, fingers still, eyes fixed on the flickering cursor of a blank document. The events of Friday existed like a dream, vivid, disjointed, unfinished. Except the dream hadn't faded. Mr. Reed's office door was closed. She hadn't seen him arrive. She wasn't sure she wanted to. Over the weekend, she'd tried to reset herself. Laundry, groceries, small talk with David over video call. He'd looked tired, but cheerful, chatting about his client's new proposal as if the distance between them were just geographical. Maya had smiled, nodded, laughed when expected. She'd almost convinced herself she was still the same woman. Almost. Now, back in the office, she kept her gaze low, her posture perfect. Her ring was on, her face unreadable. If anyone suspected, they didn't show it. But inside, she wasn't quiet. Inside, her thoughts clashed like cymbals. Around noon, she opened her email. The subject line sat there, short and sharp. Let's talk. R. No greeting. No explanation. Just 3 words that splintered her balance. She stared at it for several minutes, hands hovering over the keyboard without typing a response. She didn't reply. Not then. Not later. By Wednesday, the silence between them had become its own language. Mr. Reed didn't call her in. No glances. No acknowledgments. Only distance, measured, deliberate, loud. That night, Maya returned home before David. The apartment was dim and untouched, just the way she'd left it. She poured a glass of wine and sat on the edge of the couch, arms wrapped tightly around herself. There was a weight pressing down on her chest. Not regret exactly. Not satisfaction either. Something harder to name. She walked into the bathroom and turned on the light. The mirror greeted her with unforgiving honesty. She didn't look broken. She didn't look changed. And yet, she couldn't find herself in the reflection. Reaching into the drawer, she pulled out her journal. It had been untouched for months, tucked away like a past self she hadn't needed in a while. Now, the pages felt too white, too expectant. She wrote, I crossed the line because I wanted to be seen, not touched, not claimed, just seen. The words stared back, fragile and bold. She ripped the page out and fed it to the sink flame. It curled and blackened, ashes swirling briefly before disappearing down the drain. When David returned the next morning, she greeted him with a kiss. Not too long, not too short. His suitcase thudded against the hallway floor, and he smiled. Missed you, he said, arms circling her waist. Me too, she replied, voice steady. And maybe she meant it. At least part of her did. The part that wanted to believe they could find something real again. Later that evening, while David slept beside her, Maya sat alone on the balcony, wrapped in a thin shawl, watching the city pulse in silence. Her phone buzzed once. She didn't look at the screen. She didn't need to. Choices don't unmake themselves, she thought. They echo. She turned the phone face down and leaned back, the chill of the metal chair pressing through the fabric. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. A life unraveling, maybe, or starting over. The next morning, she arrived at work 10 minutes early. Her steps were calm, her face neutral. The world didn't pause. Life moved forward. As she passed Mr. Reed's office, she noticed the door was half open. He was inside, flipping through a file, sleeves rolled, same watch on his wrist. Their eyes met, just once. He didn't speak. Neither did she. There was no tension, no invitation. Only quiet understanding. A truth passed between them. It had happened. It couldn't be undone. And neither of them knew what it meant. At her desk, Maya booted up her computer and opened a new document. Her fingers moved without hesitation. The campaign proposal took shape in clean paragraphs. Precise. Polished. Just like her. But behind every keystroke, a pulse beat, irregular, alive, unfinished. And though the story looked like it was ending, it wasn't. Not really.